on channel 807, Azam on channel 386, and live streams on our YouTube and Facebook platforms. You can find us in Area 2 Lilongwe or can reach us on 0883-815-055. Come, let us help you grow your business. Luntha Television stands as an autonomous faith-based broadcaster with a national and international reach. Experience the difference.
Dear viewer, we continue bringing you live coverage of National Conference on Taxation, brought to you by Malawi Economic Justice Network, as well as the Evangelical Association of Malawi and Luntha Television, with funding from the Norwegian Church Aid and Dan Church Aid. We now bring you the afternoon session. Welcome back, Bwana Mike Melvin Panda.
Thank you very much. I hope we all had our lunch. As per announced before we break, we'll proceed this afternoon with a presentation from the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, which is going to be presented by Dr. Ligomeka, who is the Chief Economist in the Ministry and has been at the helm of UN Tax Convention as our ambassador there, and he's going to share so much insights in terms of Malawi's participation to the UN in as far as UN Tax Convention is concerned. We also asked him, or the ministry, to share some insights in terms of how are we progressing in as far as our domestic resource mobilization strategy is concerned. So allow me at this time to invite Dr. Ligomeka to the podium to take us through his presentation. A round of applause as he walks to the front.
Yeah, I think it's coming up.
No, it's on. It's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Thank you, Mr. Banda, the moderator. So I'll be presenting on all these issues, but I want to start with a disclaimer to say that the presentation I'm about to make was not vetted by the Minister of Finance. I was asked to come here to make the presentation. I've been authorized. But if I say that these are the views and thoughts of the Minister of Finance before that formal approval, then I'll be lying. So we take this as my thoughts through the experience I've had working with the Minister of Finance and not the views of the Minister of Finance. I thought I should clarify that first. Okay, so I've titled this presentation Malawi's Tax Justice Agenda, Aligning Domestic Priorities with the UN Tax Convention Process. We can proceed. Context. I think the Bishop did lay good context. We're talking of the United Nations Tax Convention. big words. But what exactly are we trying to do here? So I want to give one example of the issues that the tax world is facing and why, as we heard the other presentation as well, why it was decided to have a tax conversion. So this is one issue that is at the heart of, that is bringing problems on how to tax it. Taxation of the digital economy. So you have e-commerce, brokerage models, things like eBay, Airbnb. People even in Malawi right now, you can book to stay at someone's house. They have done Airbnb. You pay online. You don't meet the person. You go at the gate, you meet the gate man. They give you keys. You go sleep and then you go. The person is making income. Me as a tax person, how do I know about this income? How should I tax this income? The person has paid. Airtel maybe has information, if they paid Airtel money. The banks have information, if they pay through the bank. But me as a tax person, what relationship should we have? So let's move it from the Malawi scenario. We move it outside. You've paid on your desk. You're viewing music, you subscribe, whatever, or you're buying music. How should me, as a MRA sitting there, know that Mr. Banda is buying music from Amazon? Amazon is making money in Malawi, although they are not here, they're not in Malawi. They're outside. Apple is making money in Malawi, they're outside. Because if it's a tangible product, it's easy. They'll come through the border. We say, let's tax it. Okay? But if it is intangibles, how do we start taxing it? So we said, maybe we need to come together as a team. So first I'm saying I'm bringing the practical issues about the UN tax convention, what we're trying to achieve, to see how issues like these can be taxed. We got the next one. These are the global level. I want to bring it down even further to the Malawi level. Next slide, please. Okay, so these pictures, there are 3 pictures here: roads, school, hospital. This is a country in Africa. If we were to ask in this room, which country do you think? I think we should be able to point out. Maybe it's Africa, maybe Botswana, maybe. I'm sure no one will say, this looks like Malawi, right? We all have an idea. If you look at any country that you have in mind right now, that this could be this country, and you just look at their tax to GDP ratio, the percentage of their domestic revenues that they collect when compared to their GDP, those countries, mostly East Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, the SACU countries, they should be above 18%. Their tax to GDP ratio is about 18%. The average for Africa is 17. Malawi, we were at around 13%. So you see, that already gives you an idea how much money they are able to collect domestically, which they are able to use it to do this. You can do that to go to the next slide. I'm sure you can also have an idea where this is. And again, if we interrogate this country, you see their tax to GDP ratio. They are failing to collect that money domestically. The question now is, why? How? What are the issues that are making them struggling? And the UN Tax Convention is trying to help countries, especially these ones, to say, maybe you have resources, but are the companies that are operating in your country paying the fair amount of taxes? So maybe on your own, you're not able to tax them. But let's make a tax system as a group to say, if a multinational is operating in Malawi, at the minimum, it should pay 15% of its profit. Because some of the companies operating here, you'd find that maybe they are paying 2%, 5%. So say, let's agree at the global level, so that when the companies come, they're not even negotiating, you should say, this is what we signed to. This is what we expect at the minimum. Trying to assist the African. Okay. Okay, so for this picture, this is Malawi. These are pictures from Malawi. I can check, I can cross-check. But the idea I was trying to present here is, if you go to a country, you see this situation, then you look how much tax domestically they are collecting. You see it correlated to this. It's low. Well, the other picture, you see, if you go to the other picture, this country, they can be these different countries, okay? But if you see a country that has nice roads, nice schools, nice hospitals, okay? And then you go to look at their tax to GDP ratio, which shows how good you are at collecting domestic revenues, you see that these are higher, and that is the point. Yes. I mean, it's a debate we can have. We can have its usage and the collection. But I was focused on the correction. But we can debate of the money that is collected, which big economy is collecting good monies, but it's not able to use them prudently. I will tell you, the biggest is collection and not the usage. The usage, yes, it does, but it starts with the collection. There are bigger economies. For example, Nigeria, okay? The situation in most countries is the other picture. When you look at their tax to GDP ratio, okay, they are maybe at 7%. We even do better than them. Already it shows you why they're, because the revenue, sometimes they are not collecting it, but maybe someone else is, unofficially. But anyway, that was the point I was trying to make, to say some of our countries are failing to collect as much revenues as they would, and because they are failing to collect that revenues because of different factors, including multinational corporations that are providing an environment where they are taking a lot of the revenues. Because of that, we are lagging behind in investments. Okay, we can go next. So with these two pictures, that was the context. I thought I should bring in the context to say, why should we bother talking about the UN Tax Convention? Why should we bother talking about tax justice? So as an example, I've highlighted two issues. One, there are issues that are not easy to solve at a country level. You need different countries to come together. That was the first slide. Digitization of the digital economy. The second one was you need to agree at a higher level to ensure that the multinationals that come with a lot of skills are not so charging you. You are able to collect more revenues, even from them, for your national development. And that's why you have to talk about tax justice. That's why we have to talk about UN Tax Convention. It's providing that platform. Now specifically to the agenda, global context, the UN Tax Cooperation Agenda, Malawi participation and status, key priorities for Malawi in the UN Tax Convention process, domestic resource mobilization and tax reform alignment, collaboration between CSOs and government, next steps and recommendations. So this is the outline of what I thought I should put. The other one was just introduction. So don't write too much. We'll talk about expenditure. But this is the key issue I wanted to bring. So we can go to next. Okay. So most of these, the other presentations, I've covered it. But I thought I should highlight this as well. The issue why we need a UN tax convention. What is the first one? The global tax design tends to favor residence countries. These are the countries where the companies are coming from. The companies that, when the slides was being shown, are resisting the UN tax convention because they know they'll be taking less. The multinationals are coming from the UK, US, the developed countries. They are coming to Africa and other low income, where the minerals are, where the resources are. So global tax design tend to favor resident countries where my national headquarters are based, rather than source countries where business activity and resource extraction occur. So because of that, they say, is there a way we can work as a group to have some legally binding tax system? So the UN seeks a fair and more inclusive international tax architecture. The extremes are in three: the primary convention, cross-border self-taxation, and distribution and resolution. These are the areas that the convention is looking at. But the key issue was the first one. How do we deal with that so that there's equality, whether they're coming from developed country or developing country? We can go to the next one. So these are specifically what some of the issues being looked at: fair allocation of taxing rights for developing countries, taxing the digital economy and cross-border services, distribution and resolution, transparency, exchange of information, tackling illicit financial flows, and we've heard how much, if we stopped that illicit transaction, just in Malawi, how much revenues we could get from there. It's quite significant. The numbers that come under illicit financial flows, they are quite big for Malawi. Inclusive decision making, because everyone comes together. It's a decision that it's democratically voted to make that decision, linkage to SDG, domestic resource mobilization. And the last one is where we are domesticating it. Because sometimes you can agree at an international level, but you need to bring that, because as long whatever you've agreed, you can agree that at the minimum, corporate companies, multinationals should not pay less than 15% at that level. But if you don't take that and put it on tax law domestically, taxation act yatwija tisinthe tizilembeso zimenezo, then we cannot implement it because it's not domestically. So that's why we need to domesticate them. We need to understand what is happening. We need to domesticate them so that we can actually apply it. Next. So, I thought I should highlight this, the bit of confusion. There are a UN tax committee and there's UN tax convention. This is what is being proposed. The UN tax committee is already there. This is what Mr. Sandam was talking about, to say the UN tax convention, 25 individuals, experts, they make tax laws. The UN tax committee, and I was a member of this, mainly you look at the UN double tax agreement model. This is the main one. When countries between the developed and developing, Malawi is negotiating with UK for different aspects. Royalties, how should they be treated? Interest and the management fees, things like that, how should they be treated? The UN model is far much better. It gives more taxing rights to the developing countries. So the UN, they developed this model, and it's because the world is changing every time. They're always looking at this model. But there are other issues. Digitization of revenue authorities and things like that. So there are other aspects that the UN looks at. And if you Google the UN tax committee, you find a lot of documents, transfer pricing, things like that. There are recommendations that are there, documents that they produce. You can read and apply to your country. But they are not binding on the country. When they say maybe excise tax on tobacco we recommend that it shouldn't be less than 40%. That's just that, a recommendation. The documents would be there. You should have excise tax on sugar, on tobacco, on luxury motor vehicles and things like that. It will just be a recommendation. That's the UN Tax Committee. But the UN Tax Convention, they want to say, at the minimum, excise tax on sugar should be 10%. And we should apply what? 10%. It will be legally binding once you ratify. So this is the big difference. 25, there, the UN Tax Committee is a bit more people. But also because it's government, this one, the representatives, they work, although they choose you, but you work in your own expert capacity to advise governments. But that one, whatever governments agree, then they have to follow that. The importance of participation, and Mr. Sandam did highlight this, to say, we're not seeing Malawi. Why are we not seeing Malawi there? The importance is that one. What is being agreed there is legally binding. But although we are Africa, although Africa is taking lead, but the countries that are there might have different interests. Maybe for us, our interest maybe would be digital taxation, or maybe we want to do more on mining, we're not doing much, so we would be strong on mining to say, when we are being short-charged in mining, so let's have, rules that are strong in mining. But some other countries, there are countries that are very vocal at the UN Tax Convention within Africa. I can mention here, there's Nigeria, and when Nigeria starts speaking, they will keep speaking, and then they'll push their agenda. Maybe they'll be talking about water rights and things like that. We don't have, we are landlocked. But that's the agenda, so not focusing on the key issue that we want. That's why participation of the countries is important, because we want the document to also help you, assist you, rather than just one country. But that's the main difference between the UN Tax Committee and the UN Tax Convention. We can go to the next. Participation and status. Are we participating in the UN Tax Convention or tax framework? The answer is currently no, not really. We had requests for people to participate. 3 people were initially proposed to be part of this initiative, to follow the conversation that is happening there and take the Malawi agenda to the convention to ensure that the areas that we are also interested in are incorporated in that. Our weaknesses, our strengths are also reflected. The problem that was there, the 3 people were mentioned, were nominated for government. Minister of Finance, I was nominated, and there are 2 people from Malawi Revenue Authority that were to be part of this process. But for some reason, it's just delayed. It never went through. Maybe because of the cost implication, because we were supposed to be based in New York. But anyway, most of the conversation, the UN headquarters is in New York. So because of that, you sit there and then you meet other people working on the, you have all these discussions and things like that. So, but that hasn't happened for Malawi. Maybe it will happen later, maybe it will not, but that's the current status. It's still not clear whether the people will be cleared, and with the change of government, people change positions. I mean, it's Minister of Finance, I might go somewhere. So we don't know what will happen. So the Malawi New York office, the Malawi Embassy in New York, the UN office for Malawi, does for a bit. They give us information, this is what is happening, they give us. So out of interest, you can read some of those documents to follow a bit. You can also request a link. I have requested a link because I'm interested in these issues to be following up. So it's not complete silence. We know what is happening, but we're not very actively. Those 3 people were the ones who are supposed to be actively involved. And then if people like this meeting, recommendation we share with them, or we go to come together as a team when we meet in these discussions and say, this is what we should do, propose for Malawi, make sure that this is included, or if someone has already proposed it, say, yes, let's support this one. This initiative student fail. So it's voting. We need also to be part of that voting, and then we are assisting the agenda. But we'll see as we go what will happen to that. Maybe someone will be sent. So I've answered that question. I was specifically asked to say, but talk something about our participation. Next. Okay. Now, that's the UN Tax Convention. I'm sure by now we should be a bit clear on what the UN Tax Convention is all about, what they're trying to do. A little bit. We can say something. It's the global tax agenda. How do we make it fairer, especially for developing countries? Now we have in Malawi a document that we call Domestic Revenue Mobilization Strategy. So this strategy highlights key activities that we need to do as the Ministry of Finance and other stakeholders within the next 5 years, between 2022 and 2026, to ensure that we raise the tax to GDP ratio. Then it was about 12 to 13% to about 17%. 2016, we were supposed to get to 17%. As I mentioned, one of the key indicators of a country doing well is how much they are collecting in tax revenues domestically. The domestic revenues they are able to raise themselves, not donors, whatever, no. But how much as a country are you able to raise? If you are able to raise a lot of domestic revenues, that already gives you an indication of where that country will be, and most of those countries are well developed. My colleague will say it's about the expenditure, but you don't expend nothing. You spend something. So you have to collect it first to spend it. And this is where it becomes important. Some of it will go into a pocket, but if you are collecting more, maybe what goes into a pocket, what remains is enough to develop. And this, you can prove it scientifically. Tell me a country that is more developed than Malawi, and then I'll say, let's see the tax to GDP ratio. You see that they're doing well. It doesn't fail that test. So it's a good indicator. So we need to do well. So we said, how can we do well? We developed this 2021 to 2026. And our aim, 5 percentage points. Go to next. Now, to show that the 5% percentage points tax to GDP ratio within 5 years was quite ambitious. Okay? Was quite ambitious. It was bold strategy. If you look, this is 2004, 2005. Okay? We have been, on average, this one is before the basic, this is the basic tax to GDP ratio. Oh, I think these are the basic numbers. But you see, we were at one point about 17-18%. By those figures, they say, no, these were not, we have to base it. Then we moved down. But on average, if you put a basic line, it should be around here. So you have been, since 2004, so for the past 20 years, we moved maybe 14, 15 tax to GDP ratio, okay? For all these years, maybe 20 years. Now we are saying, within 5 years, we moved by 5, from here to here, within 5 years. So it was quite a bold initiative. But we'll see how we've done. So we can go to next. So domestic resource mobilization and tax justice, my focus. So the DRMS, there are different areas. Go to the next one. Maybe I wanted to go to the next one. Okay. Okay. Go to the back. Go back. You can go back. Okay. So as we go to the UN Tax Convention, as you have seen, that strategy is expiring in 2026. So we need to develop another strategy that will cover 2026, another 5 years. So the UN Tax Convention will help us do this, take the time and improve tax to GDP ratio, address tax incentives, leakage and transfer pricing, build fairness, ensure national independence, include gender and equity in tax design, modernize taxation of digital services and e-commerce. So what we think we will achieve by participating in the UN Tax Convention is to achieve this, because we have a better understanding, and as we are developing the 2026 to maybe 2031 domestic revenue mobilization strategy, should be able to help us achieve this. And the multinational one is mainly the one that the UN Tax Convention is targeting. We can go next. So priority for Malawi in the UN Tax Convention process. What is our main interest currently? And we present this as we say government, although I'm sort of speaking on my own, but maybe they'll say it's okay, indeed this is the areas. These are our areas. But you can also tell us to say, no, government, to this you can add this. Or this is not necessary, you can. But currently, our main focus are this. Securing fair tax rights in the digital economy. I've talked about digital taxation. Strengthen dispute prevention and resolution mechanisms. This one could be, because dispute resolution, the disputes are between the taxpayer and the tax authority. And usually it's around these BEPS issues, transfer pricing, things like that. But how best can we resolve these issues? Most of our transfer pricing cases were not doing too well. I'm not saying MRA is not doing well, don't quote me on that, but I'm saying we're not doing too well. The transfer are too complex. But we think that with this initiative, that should be easier. Enhance the transparency and tackle illicit financial flows. I think that has been talked about. This is also our interest because we know illicit financial flows, it's a big problem that we also have. Align convention with capacity building and sustainable development. We think that it will not stop at developing the convention. The Secretary maybe will be also providing tailor-made trainings. We think that this should be part of the convention to assist countries. Promote inclusive decision-making and stakeholder participation. I think more or less now that is coming. Prepare domestic system for convention implementation. This is where the DRMS is. With this, we should be able to develop a DRMS that is talking to the UN Tax Convention so that we can domesticate it locally as well and implement it. Next. Okay. What is in the offing? I thought I did hear most questions being asked. What are we currently doing? We have tax laws that are outdated. This is our biggest weaknesses. And this is where maybe the multinational might take advantage. So we said, what should we do? And I want to say here, like a politician, say, Chaka Chamawa, Jisanati Chaka Chamawa. All our tax laws, we are presenting a bill to Parliament. We have drafts, and we will soon come to a workshop, invite stakeholders like you to hear your views. We will give you that draft and say, this is what we are planning to do. How should we do, how better can we do it? What should we include? What should we subtract? What are your thoughts? So already, some of the issues that you are discussing, they're in the offing, and our target is next fiscal year. I'll tell you, we have had some of these, the taxation acts and the bills. We have had them for the past 2 years, I can say. Why we didn't take them through, although we thought this is important, it will see to the loopholes, it will bring in revenues. We did not take them forward because every time these past 2 years we were saying, elections are closed. Some of these are sensitive. We can't. So we said, every time the politicians would say, it's too close to elections. So the best is to do it now, within the next 2 years. If we miss it, we miss an opportunity. So we think that next fiscal year, it's a good window to do all the processes that are required. It's supposed to go to cabinet, it's supposed to, all those, the consultation with all stakeholders like you. So, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 acts: Taxation Act, VAT Act, Customs used to be Customs and Excise Act, but we have split them now. So we have drafts this. What are we doing? I can already start revealing. In Taxation Act, move toward taxation. Right now, we say only the income that you make in Malawi will be taxed in Malawi. So if you're very rich, you have a company, you have invested in US or whatever, you bring that money here, we don't tax it, we just look at you. Okay? But now we are saying, no, if it's a Malawi company operating, when it brings that company, you're ours. Even there, whatever income, because you went to Malawi. So that's what most countries are doing. And we were missing that part as well. That's just to enhance revenue. We want to introduce a minimum tax. Minimum taxes, there are companies that come to Malawi, very big ones. And they can operate 5 years, 10 years, say, we're in losses. They're in business bunch. Chaka ndi chaka mupanga malosi. So what, yeah. So what we want to do with the minimum tax, we are saying, if you are a company operating in Malawi, you pay at the minimum, let's say 1% or 2% of your total turnover. Not the profit, turnover. Okay? Now, if your turnover is more than 1%, you don't pay that one. You pay the corporate tax. If it's less, you still pay something. So that's what we are trying to do, to avoid this. Just finding creative ways of avoiding paying taxes. We want to do that. We have wealth taxation. We have realized, with mabwana Sandra Mambili, mabwebwete, koma, amatoka rango kale, I think kamridasia, ineni pinganjira. Koma billionaire now, Zwith. Other countries have wealth taxation. We want to start that as well. We are working with the other organizations to see how best we can do with that. Then we have this transfer pricing and things like that, BEPS issues, basic erosion and profit shifting mechanisms. We want to be well covered. In our laws, someone said it's a bit outdated. Then we have tax incentives. Someone in the morning you heard the presentation say we have tax holidays and things like that. They don't work. Maybe we should do. That's what we are trying to do there. So instead of saying we are removing tax holidays, we found a good way of good English. Incentives rationalization. but we just want to reduce the incentives to have just those that are nicely targeted. That's under taxation. Under VAT Act, we are looking at digitalization, we are looking at exemptions and zero rates, we are also looking at incentives. Under Customs Act, again, what was talked about, ministers, president, vice president, even chiefs, do you know? Yes. Chiefs can buy motor vehicles duty-free. Yes. So, senior government officials, these are the people with money. So, senior government officials, mabwana akula sir. They can buy motor vehicle duty-free. So these are some of the things that we are removing. We want to remove that. Of course, it's difficult. The judges, they buy motor vehicles duty-free. But they'll tell you, these are in the condition of service. So we are working with people who know how can we change the condition of service. So that these are the people who are able to afford their own car. Yeah, so excise tax coverage. We know there are people that are producing products that are excisable, but they are not. We know some are smuggling, and there's clarity on how it's applied. So this is what is coming very soon, very soon, very soon. Which process? Oh, so, okay, let me talk about tax policy formulation. Tax policy formulation, what we do, we either we have an idea, or you have an idea, you give us, or we ask people to give their input. And then usually, tax policy, so it's mainly just Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance. So the people proposing, some of them would be there, because we say senior government officials would also benefit. So they would be there, because when I write, I have to send it to my PS. The PS has to send it to the minister. The minister has to send it to cabinet. Cabinet has to send it to parliament. So you ask, are they the same people? That's the chain. Yes. Okay, so I also say this, how to eat an elephant. Okay? Little by what? So what we did last year was everyone who is benefiting in in importation of motor vehicles duty-free, we have introduced VAT. So there are 3 taxes that you pay on the motor vehicle. There is import duty, excise tax, then VAT. Misongo itatu. Import duty makaka 30% tikumenyeni. Ka excise kama panga range 30, 40, 70, pena so 110 kutenga galmoto yake. VAT 16.5. These are the taxes you pay. Last year, is it this year? This year, January, we have removed VAT. Now everyone paying any of those beneficiaries will pay VAT. I don't want to say whatever will happen in the future, but we are saying how to eat a what? Did you hear any outcry? Because we are starting small. We go to next. Okay. So, CSO and government collaboration. Yeah, maybe I can just finish. Yeah, sure. Okay. So, CSO, I'm about to finish. So, CSO and government. So, how do we, stakeholders like yourselves and us, collaborate? How do we work together? As I said, we really like this platform. It gives an opportunity for us to hear from you. It's very difficult sometimes to get this information from people. And I've seen the program. In a way, you're already following this, creating a joint working group. I think that's what you're proposing. We'll have a paper, develop a national position paper on the UN Tax Convention. I think that's what you're proposing already, okay? Build capacity, train, knowledge sharing, and briefs. This is what we are doing. We're sharing knowledge here. You're telling us what we are planning. Maybe you correct us out here, do it this way, do it this way. Promote policy engagement and tax literacy. I mean, sometimes it's just we don't have tax information. 7, accountability and transparency in tax administration. So, how can we work together? We're saying, what you've done here, this is the key start. But specifically for the UN Convention, would be happy with a position paper, which you and us, if you are speaking there or we're speaking there, we're speaking one word, one language. So this is important of this. So that when we go there, we now Malawi, I want to make gene. This now come so finance. So this is good. We're working together. We're sharing knowledge. So this is what we expect, at least from us, how we should work together. And this engagement is that important. Okay, we can go next one. So we've been talking about the UN Tax Convention, the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. I wanted to divert a bit. And while we get bogged down with the international issues, dealing with transfer pricing, price erosion things, taxation of the digital economy, taxation of services, very complex. Even the US is struggling with those issues. We should not forget that as a country, as Malawi, there are other areas where there's money. So we shouldn't lose focus of those areas. But where is that money? We should demystify some myths. People will say here, the money in Malawi is in mining. There's money in mining. There is money in mining. But the World Bank has, but how much? The World Bank has made a study. They are saying currently it's contributing 0.2%, but in the next 10 years, its contribution will not add to tax distribution, will not be more than 2%. Okay? 10 years. Okay? So these models are based on estimates. How much is the maximum output for Kailekela? How much is the maximum output for Kangankude? How much is the output for the next 3 to 5 years? These ones, we have the, what do you call it, Asia reports. All these, they are publicly available information. They do the study. They do the projections for the next 10 years. They used that. This is what the World Bank will tell you. Okay? 2%. VAT. Currently we are at 3.5 to 4%. What we are collecting in VAT. But at 3.5% of GDP, okay? Over 30. C efficiency. C efficiency means if the VAT you are supposed to collect, how much of that are you actually collecting? Right now, the VAT we are collecting is 14%. Ndio kuli 100, timena kutenga 100. Kwa 100 ifetu kungotenga 14%. You see? Sub-Saharan Africa, the average there, the C efficiency, is 30%, 32%. In other countries, developed countries, is 50-something%. Okay? We are only able to take 14%. So I'm asking, where is the money? I'm telling you, there's a lot of potential in VAT. Because if you're at 14%, you can easily double that. If we do 1, 2, or 3 things. Of course, it will be tricky. Because I'm going to be able to find receipt. That is true. And those are the issues that are holding the revenue. But, how do you receipt? Okay, so where is the potential? So as we are looking at all these issues, abalanga, tisaiwale so kumauza ako ku Ministry of Finance which tikamachita kuti akula kumaso kuti zikuona domestically. Don't just samaine na ichapisho. Tigwanis. This is very informal sector. I know there are a lot of people who say we have to tax the informal sector. And I'll tell you there's a lot we do from the informal sector. Currently, they contribute less than 1%. And in the next 10 years, there is no potential they can contribute more than that. Let me tell you this. In Malawi, currently, the taxpayers are grouped into 2. There's the large taxpayer and the small taxpayer. There's a threshold of annual return, how much money you make, total sales. Okay? The large taxpayers are less than 500. Okay? The other taxpayers, they are over 40,000. But the large taxpayer unit, the whole unit, contributes 80 to 85% of the revenues that we collect. So, kulima company and the anhuena taxpayer 500, I mean I'm large taxpayer. I mean I'm large taxpayer, let's say 500. I want to contribute 80%. So I'm going to do MRI could 4 trillion. No 3.2 trillion. You want to contribute my company less than 500. My company na 40,000. I go bang no 10 to 20% in I. Informal sector is good to tax because some are informal, but maybe they are too big. But other than that, the potential there for revenue is not that much. Where is the potential? The big taxpayers. I said I want to demystify some myths. CSOs, oguli sejina jazito aziti bila nsonko. Habari, mavenda jerata mangisampaka kuti. Koma swali bila zingati. Koma pamene kuli zima companies zikulu. Transfer pricing ndio ichi. Ikutawisa ndrama zenu. Also, now taxpayers shouldn't be taxed. They will be taxed. They should be taxed. But we should, when we are designing the policy, we should design that policy that ensures that we're not spending too much money on this small one, when the big money is going to tower, was good have. Tax policy and administration reforms, potential over 10% of GDP. What are we talking about here? So, this one is we have tax treaties, we have Kayama tax incentives, Jani, those vija, review to Nenama policy ija. We are here. Taxation Act, VAT Act, Customs Act, Excise Act. We are here. We think that if we implement that one the way we want, the potential to raise revenues here is massive. Just changing it to Tipange modernized law at which. It's where the money is. And then there's harnessing technology. There's a lot of money. Just MRA to being automated. There's a lot of money just automating most of these functions. Is zokumana kumana as taxpayer and the tax administration is just automating most of those functions. There are shops that order 10 TVs. They come through the border. They go into the shop. And then they sell. All the TVs are gone. But their VAT receipt will say they saw 2 receipts. At the border, 10 TVs entered Malawi. But the 2 systems are not talking to each other. We don't know. So just by automating, you know, you know, TV 10. Right. But you know, 2, what happened to the others? That's that one is so, but that's the kind of linkage about automation technology. Should be able, big data issues, we should be able to capture a lot more. So I thought that as we are talking about the multinationals and things like that, as CSOs, however you influence policy, you should also know that there are all these other areas. You can say, also, the money there. This is what we should be doing. And we always push us about the reforms. And it's here. Indeed, the reforms are good to modernize our tax systems because there's a lot of money. That was one more thought, but next. Next. There's no next? Oh, go up. Yeah, you skipped this one. Yeah, there's the very last thought. So, we have been talking about the UN Tax Convention, what it's doing, and why we should participate, and how that will lead to tax justice when we take that and implement it domestically. And I've also highlighted the areas where we think they have a high potential for raising revenues for Malawi to ensure that we safeguard, we provide services even to the most poor, to ensure that we develop our country. But my very last thought is the issue that was highlighted. One other aspect to ensure this tax justice is to ensure that the money that is collected is well used. So let's not forget expenditure, how the tax money is being used. And as CSO, you play a big role in this, ensuring that there's accountability to how the tax money is used. I almost stopped here, but there's one more because, so next. The conclusion, I had to make official conclusion because of the other issues. The UN Tax Convention presents a new opportunity for fair global tax governance. As Minister of Finance, we are trying to ensure that we participate and we align our domestic reform and the projects accordingly. We want to make sure that what we are doing domestically, we aligned what is happening globally. And this is our commitment, and this is why we want to participate. We want to ensure that that framework as well. So that's our commitment. From you, CSOs, this collaboration is good. There is capacity, you have a lot of capacity in inviting us together, and ensuring the clarity of position. The position that we take to the UN Convention, it's well informed because you also have reached out. You research on these issues. You have more information, medicine, whatever. All the people you bring together, you know more. We are few in the Ministry of Finance. You are a lot. You have more ideas. So let's have clarity of position. This position, you should take it this way. Do share with us those recommendations and those positions that, as government, we should take when we go to these multinational organizations. I thought I should end there, and if I end there, if my minister happened to see this, they'll be proud of me. Say, yes, you did remember the CSOs, you remembered what we would do, so that's good. So thank you very much.
Malawi graduating from an 8-hour economy to a 24-hour economy divided in 8 hours, but we keep the economy running. My thought about that is we milk at times a cow that has no milk. And so if an individual Malawian, even the lowest Kumunzi, has something to earn and they're able to sustain themselves, they're there for their children, they will build good houses, but they'll also buy more goods, and the government is going to get more taxes. My thought. When you move around town, you find around 4 o'clock, in a matter I enjoy you will wear one of us. See you to my hand. And at times you want fuel. In the evening you're moving up, you find all the filling stations are closed. You don't have fuel, you don't get the money. I don't know what you think about that. And then I had a scenario where I was at the airport and I was waiting to leave, and I had some money to spend at Kamuzu International Airport. And behold, they gave me a cup of coffee, and then after like 2 minutes of waiting, the lady comes, says, Pipana Bwana, Achana Pera Mwambia Nita Sadika Pimonsi, and I gave the cup, I said, fine. I went with my hunger, but with my money as well. And these are key points, Henry, because there are many visitors that come in every day. As we speak, there are people who come in and are living, and they have money to spend, but then this money is not tapped in. How can we tap into that, which is going to increase our tax based on the collection, the revenue collection? And lastly, the proposals on what you think on the double taxation. I'm one of the taxpayers, of course, but I at times ask myself, you come, someone comes and says, pay us ground rates. The other comes, pay us city rates. The other one comes in and so many people coming in, squeezing you from every corner. And what's the temptation is to evade tax in such ways to avoid liability. The very last one is a question. Since we put the 2 toll gates, which were a point of contention, thank God we are now used to them. When I reach at Kalinyeka, I already have my 1,000 to pay. When I reach Chingen, I have another 1,000 to pay. How much has this helped our country in revenue collection? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is regarding the tax law. First of all, I should acknowledge that I'm one of the people who do not celebrate Independence Day on Independence Day, the day that we celebrate. Just because I believe that Malawi is not a sovereign country, just because when a certain organization says, okay, cut this budget, we adhere to that. So austerity is always there. And now there's this good development that is coming, whereby as a country we're going to be reviewing our tax laws. That is very good, but I still think this should be our next step. The first step should be advocating for reviewing of IMF subs, the structure adjustment programs, which were developed in 1980s, and we're still using those. So regardless of us reviewing our tax policies, we're still going to be relying on IMF to support us with the loans. And when we're giving back the loans, they're still going to be taxed very highly just because they're using the same policies that were used back then. So the first step should be advocating for the review of those subs so that we can also benefit from the review. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc, for the eye-opening presentation. I also have maybe 3 or 4 questions. You talked about strategy. I believe it's a domestic taxation strategy that ends in 2026. I wanted to know from you, I think if I got you right, initially you were saying it was hovering around the GDP tax threshold was around 20%. Am I correct?
No, it was 12, but the target was 12, 13, the target was 16, 17.
All right. So I think I want to know that
In this 5-year plan, how much growth have you seen with the target that you had, which I think was 5 points, right? Yeah, so that's the first one. The second one, I wanted to know from you, in the proposition that in order to be well represented or to expedite our interests in the UN convention, tax convention, there was a proposal that we have 3 people resident in New York. Now that that has not happened, is it something that is the only way for us to make sure that our presence is there, or because it's also an incentive to the unfortunately you're one of them in question, but I'm looking at it that if the passion is to ensure that our interests are represented, we are in a highly technological world now. We should be able to advance our interest, vehemently so actually, even from the base, without actually being present there. We also know we already have a lot of people representing the nation outside, ambassadors and all sorts, and we can't really say we are reaping as much as they're doing something. So that was also an observation that I would like you to add on. Finally, I felt like
there were some points I will need clarity from you. We're talking about tax justice. That's why we are crying foul that the multinationals are reaping us. And then at the same time, you do suggest that the money is with the wealthy, and therefore widening the tax band does not really bring in the money in some of your thoughts. To say vendor versus ngati. The wealthy man is the man with the money. At the same time, we are saying these people are not paying us tax, but we want to collect tax from them. Is that not a contradiction of some sort? And then in regards to the same, on that final thought of the issue of widening the tax band to increase revenue, and then proposing that we focus on certain areas, are we not defeating the very element of taxation justice that we are here lobbying for? Thank you.
Right. Good afternoon. My question comes from the point where we're showing contributing 0.5%, and that the projected contribution in the coming years would be at 2%. Now, a few years ago when Kairekera was in operation, GDP contribution from mining activities was at 10%. Now we have Lotus, which has come to take over the operations. And also that we know there is quite a significant amount that should probably be coming in from the other sites, Kasia and wherever we're told that companies are coming to begin their work. I'm looking at 2% as projected. While when we had Kairekera alone, it had grown to 10%. And I'm thinking that difference between 10 and 2 is quite big. It's a leap. And so is it that Lotus is going to be making a lot less than what Kairekera was making? Or is it that what we are hearing about this mining to begin in Lilongwe and other places, that the contribution from there will be a lot less than what we were having from Kairekera? Or are we missing something here? Because I think when we look at this, the one thing that comes to mind is that we should grow to 10% or more. So for that projection, is it for how long, number one? Maybe it could be 1 year or 2 years, and 10% would be far-fetched for now. But what's the period that we are looking at for this projection? And also, is 2% actually what we are striving for with all the effort that we are putting into issues of mining governance in Malawi? Yeah, so that's my question.
Thank you for those questions. Thank you for those questions. Let me start from the last ones, going up. So The first one is 2% on the contribution. I should start by apologizing to say maybe there wasn't clarity. So, the 10% contribution of Paradigm was a contribution to GDP. Okay? The 2% is contribution to tax. As a share of tax, 0.2% to tax. So, for example, the contribution to tax for a company can be 0. Meaning, it's exporting, it's producing, production to GDP could be 20%. Because it's producing something. Okay? So the contribution, the share of its contribution to GDP could be high. 10%, as you rightly highlighted. For Paradigm, it was the contribution to GDP, it was 10%. But now look at to tax. How much tax were they paying? You will see it will be much less. Maybe less than 1%. I think so. So everyone would say under that arrangement, the taxes were very negligible. But the contribution was exactly what you are citing. So it was contributed, they were producing a lot, sending, but they were not getting the benefit. Actually, that's exactly the complaint that people had. Where's the money? We know you're contributing to GDP 10%, but where's the revenue? So I don't know if that clarifies it. Okay, thank you. All right, so then let me start from the first one. Yeah. Malawi graduating to a 24-hour, I mean, it is a good idea. You go to other countries, you can work all the time. People are busy. Luntha has tried it. I don't know, they call it night market? They're trying it. I don't know how good it's going. Maybe it's cultural thing, it's whatever. But for us, if there was a way we can encourage that, we'd definitely encourage it. Security, exactly, you see. So, yeah, so this is the issue. I think there are a lot of things. There's security, maybe there's disposable income, there's whatever, so.
I was going to say, I'm not even trying enough to do it.
Yeah, to the night.
Who knows that perhaps at night you can give you coke more.
Yes, you know, right? So it would be very good. And if there were creative ways of how we can incentivize that, we would be very much interested. Because the more the people are active, the more revenues we collect. So definitely support that idea. You've given me food for thought. Is there a way we can incentivize it, making sure that, but so far, with the Luntha experience, it's not that much. So others may be complaining security because people maybe just walk and then security is not that good. And yeah, but definitely support it, would support it, but I don't know how. It's a hard one.
I think there is some research about it.
Yeah.
You can talk actually.
This is a researcher as well here. We talked to him as well, right? Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be just, market where people are selling bananas.
Yes. The shopping malls.
Really COF
Yeah, okay.
licenses,
Okay.
passports.
Yes, okay.
Open
Okay.
24
Okay.
hours, people come.
Yes, okay.
If you want to access services in
Yes,
Malawi,
yes.
you have to come out of your work,
Yeah.
hours of work,
And you can,
then you have to be there.
that's very true.
for the because of corruption.
That's very true. Yes. A bakery that opens at 8 a.m. People have already gone to work. And then that's when you're opening the bakery. And 5 o'clock they are closed. This is when the people are going home to buy bread. It's very true.
So many soldiers who are included.
Yeah. Okay. They can help.
Assign them different.
Yeah. No, that's one way. Yes. Okay.
The religion is playing a role in limiting the hours of trading. For example, most shops, most businesses are owned by our Asian brothers and sisters, and they close. Is it between 12 and 2? So we have 2 hours of no business. sounds again in the afternoon, that is at 4, people go for prayers, they close the shops. So you see that most businesses owned by our brothers and sisters from these regions limit our trading hours. So we need to do something, we need to have more people that will not go for such, even including the big bank now, that closes on Saturday because of religion and opens on a Monday. So we have that limiting our trading hours. So we need to rethink and do something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a little contribution on the question you asked. I mean, I made a research and around Lilongwe. One is true, you mentioned security. That's one of the main issues many traders are scared about. The second one is transport. How will people travel in those hours? Is it possible to solve? Yes. Malawi is not at war. We have already civil servants who are the Malawi Police Service and of course MDF if they are permitted to do that. Instead of having many police officers on the road and stopping cars and removing the cone and putting back the cone and then removing it, that we have them in key strategic areas. We won't start with every place. We look at key shopping centers. If it starts with that, even small business owners of Mpamba, they will have their umbrella there and will go through, and their income is going to go up. And so I don't think there is much need of investment. But to sit down with key business owners, we start with those, provide a police station, let's say around Game, just as an example. And then other places we think of, and then we will pick up. Talk about it with minibus owners, for example, and others, and put a station over there. People are able to travel and shop, and we see things moving up. To me, minus thinking outside the box. We'll be changing government, insulting this president as stupid, the next one will be foolish, the other one is going to be that. But there is no single person, not the Ministry of Finance, who would work the country alone, but everyone working up. You get calls from the village, from morning to evening, my submission. Thank you.
So the next one was about too many taxes, double taxation, paying city rates. I mean, unfortunately, that's the nature of taxation. That's how we have designed the systems. The system that you have in Malawi, you go to Zambia, you go to UK, to pretty much everywhere, you find it. There are some countries actually that maybe oil company, but they are not getting more. Maybe you can get paid when you get married and things like that. But generally, for most countries, every tax you find in Malawi, there is 100% likelihood you find it in Zambia. So this is the design of the taxes. Unfortunately, you get a salary, you pay tax. You go to the shop, you buy shoes, you are taxed the same money. You go to you pay, you have land, you ground rent. So I don't know how to answer that. Unfortunately, that's the nature of tax. Okay. The next question was toll gates. Has it helped? Toll gates is earmarked money. That money goes directly to Roads Fund Administration, and that money is supposed to be used for construction of roads. I know, unless now it has started being used, but that money was just accumulating because they had earmarked that project for M1 rehabilitation. It was a huge project, maybe 30 billion, to use those toll money. But PPDA took, I think, 2-3 years. Last time I think I was part of the board, it was maybe a year or so, they had not yet approved, after 2 years, PPDA, that project to start rehabilitation. So they can't spend that money without that approval. So they ended up giving small concessions, small companies to do just a small section, just mending the road, so that they are not above that threshold. If they are at that threshold, it's a whole process for PPDA to approve. So, but the money is there. It was just sitting. They didn't know how to spend it because they didn't have the approval. But it's the earmarked. Yeah, that's what I can say to that. Then there's, Madam, you. Sorry. I'm telling you, I have no idea because at one point, even the HE was involved, but things didn't change. See, HE, we are failing to do things. PPDA is 2 years. You can imagine your proposal want to give this contract to this one. Say, oh, we are still checking. We are still checking. No. You. Let's proceed. Okay, so. The next question was about the IMF, Madam, the laws that. So there are two things I think that we need to clarify. The structural adjustment program, the SAPs, they ended, and I can say. So they did all that the recommendation they did in the 80s, they didn't help indeed. But what remained maybe is the tax system. So the reform that we needed to do, if any, but the tax system ours is not too bad because the tax system that we have is not too different from the tax system of the next country. You go to Zambia, Zimbabwe, whatever. We are more or less similar in our tax system. So it's not too bad. What is bad, maybe some might be odd, we might have left out a loophole here that we need to seal. So, but when you come to the IMF, it's when you have the ECF program, they bring in recommendation, you agree, okay? So it's called structural benchmarks. So you agree for us to give you 170 million within the next 3 years. You do A, B, C, D, devaluation, whatever. Now that is what becomes critical when you are negotiating the program. To say, do we accept this or we don't? But sometimes when people have money, they tell you, if you don't accept it, we are not going to have a program, which means we're not giving you the money. So that's where the problem comes in. But otherwise, the big one is to amend our tax laws. The ECF one, it becomes a bit more complex because they have the money, and we're going there to request, to beg. So they give in some of these strict conditions that are very difficult. Devaluation, 40%. You don't, we don't give you the money. But you're in a crisis, your reserves are low. You still sign, and you still devalue, and people suffer. It's a catch-22. DRMS, has the target been achieved? So,
will help with the next strategy. I want to understand how that will help with the domestic strategy for the next 5 years. If you can add that.
Okay. Yeah, so the DRMS, when we started, I think there was a slide, we were about 12%. Until last year, last fiscal year, we were at 14%. Now I have to say sometimes, although I'm in government, the figures can be, because now the documents are showing that we are at 16%, which means we have moved from 12 to, we have achieved 4 percentage points of GDP from the 5, which is very good, But we don't know if the figures come out again, if it will be 16 or 15 or 14, because there was within a year, it jumped by 2 percentage points, and that's really huge in terms of taxation. So sometimes it's how we project the GDP as well, things like that. But we are 16, which is good to us. We are saying we have almost achieved it. It's almost over the year, but we are 4% of 5. We have done really well. How? So, until there are commitments, that's when, and we domesticate that law, ratify the agreement, so that it's completed. That's when we will domesticate them. But as we are developing our DRMS, we are saying, what are the issues being discussed? And how are other countries already handling those issues? For example, the digital taxation. There's Uganda, Kenya, whatever. They're already either introducing VAT or digital services tax. Okay? A global, they say you pay 1% of whatever. So there are rules already. But these ones, they haven't been agreed. Countries are acting individually. So we can still borrow, but you are learning from there. Say, this country is doing this while we're addressing it at a global level. So this is what I meant to say. As we're developing, we look at those developments and say, maybe we can still borrow that while we wait for the framework to be finalized. Yeah. Is a monitor, I think, anyway, this one I can't remember. I'll achieve the same. Okay, the next one was the contradiction about the informal sector. And so what I was saying was this, and I think it was a side about where's the money. My point was this: sometimes we get too much bogged down over nothing, over small things. Okay? I'll give you an example. The Malawi Revenue Authority, at one point they introduced a system, it's called block management. They employed lots of people. Their job was to go around to find small taxpayers and try to formalize them. To say, you know, this is how you file your taxes, you should be paying, okay? They were spending a lot of money. Let's say they employed 200 people to be doing that block management. They had offices, if you remember, the roundabout town hall, there were offices there. Now it's closed. So they were spending a lot of money. When the project that started, I had the same presentation. I said, where's the money? It's good to formalize, to focus on them. But should we focus all this money here? Is this a good use of our money? At the end of the day, when they did a review, they realized that they were collecting, was it 1 billion from that initiative? They were spending almost the same amount to pay the people. They closed the program. You see what I'm saying? So this was to say, when we are making policies, we look where's the money and how much effort should we put to this. Because while you are focusing on vendor, multinational will try some billion. So that's why I was saying, the money is here, let's reform the agent, let's look at the details, let's look at so that's the point I was trying to make. Okay. Yeah, so I think those were the questions, unless I missed some. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think mine is just two short ones. On the general tax review process, all these reforms, where are these reforms going to take us to in terms of the actual revenue? Because I think the reforms or the review are based on the data that is available. To say, okay, if we do this is how we're going to have whatever the day. So I just wanted to find out, with the current status, how much, of course, we generate per year, and then if we do the review and implement the review, I think we're going to be somewhere there in terms of the figures. And that's number one. Number two, I think, that's about it. I think if you go central, you can understand what I mean. Of course, we don't even prepare when a government goes. If you look at the current state, it's just too much. Meaning there is something that we need to do as a country. Either maybe putting up some regulation, or how are we going to regulate the agenda? Because they are doing business. Also, if you look at they are consuming a lot of resources. Anyway, but I think because we are not taking care of ourselves in terms of regulation. I don't know your position as a ministry, how can we really regulate them so that at the end of the day, as the bank also contribute to the development of the country, but also ngozi zake zimene zingabeyo tikuzopewa so that other resources can be used to support other equally important issues. Thank you.
In the beginning, I think I had a question on the China debt cancellation of $20 million. What is the benefit for Malawi, and what type of, what should I say, ngongole zake zinazotani and is not pindulira chani in that context. But the additional ones, I'm looking at the private sector, specifically this government manned private sector, like ESCO, Water Board, that there's a lot of the process is all about money handling issues. If you want to pay, you need to find somebody to pay something. If you want someone to put a pole at your house, there must be a transaction of some kind. I don't know who is responsible in terms of making sure that there is indeed change when it comes to digital transformation. This other time, I was hearing Chief Executive Robert Hanja. He was talking about in the global world, other countries, you go to their to pay services, you don't meet anybody, you don't even know the chief executive of that company, you don't even know the manager of that company, but business are moving. What about us here in Malawi for those private sector but they are government related? Why I'm saying this, they always complain that they're not making a lot of money. Maybe they're pushing burden to customers. But in the real sense, it seems that they're not into business. It's like they're just doing charity. Yeah, so, but on the expenses of Malawi. Another one is, you said there's need for review of the domestic tax mobilization strategy. Do you need any support from the civil society in terms of the development of the same or resources? Yeah. So another thing is, of recent, I was talking with somebody who was in Tanzania, but is from Malawi, and he was saying, here in Tanzania, countries like Tanzania, they don't value much US dollar. They value their own currency. With us, what went wrong? Because if you want to change US dollar in Tanzania, it is as the same as you are changing the shilling as well as the Malawi kwacha. So in that context, what I've heard the recent story is that even the truck drivers are refusing to carry the US dollars. They are refusing to carry the US dollars going to Tanzania for transactions. So I just want to hear what makes them to be like that, and why Malawi is relying on the foreign currency more than our own currency, at the expense of maybe devaluing it more to the point that our currency is sometimes less important in terms of using in any type of transaction. Thank you.
think there is quite a number of laws that the ministry has reviewed, and I think that's commendable because in the last National Debt Conference, I think the minister alluded to some of these, but I think there was silence. I think we have given us some of the reasons. Yeah, but I think we at CSOs, I think that's what we are looking forward to. And I think, as he asked, is how much will be our involvement in these processes. Yeah. I think that also brings me to the next question on the, you talked about having more of a working group. How can we formalize that process? I think we will need your guidance. What do we need to do? Because why I'm saying that, I think it also, my brother here asked me a certain question. He asked you a certain question. I think the difference I'm seeing here in Malawi and other countries, because as Norwegian said, we have been part of the UN Tax Convention process. But what we have noted is that in Malawi, there's usually nothing happening from the CSO side, from the government side. We have been part of maybe about 7 or 8 meetings, virtual meetings. You find in Kenya, government is running to CSOs to say, we are going to the UN, what should we say? But that is not happening in Malawi. In Nigeria, it's the same. The role of the CSO is extremely strong. And I will challenge you, this year, we are, as Norwegians, we are supporting Meiji, they will be participating in Nairobi. Yes. They will be participating in Nairobi because of the knowledge. But we want to increase the number of CSOs that actively participate in this discussion. That's why I think as the key outcome of this meeting was that we at least have a task justice forum. You know, that maybe when government is developing a document, we have time as CSOs to review the document, which is happening in other countries, but is not happening here. So for me, I think it's also for us as CSOs to get organized, to get ourselves organized. Because as a plan for us, Norwegian Church, I think we want to support these kind of discussions, capacity building, research, and also facilitating forums. And beyond that, what I've also seen that at the UN in the discussions, there is no virtual participation. It's all physical. You have to register, have access cards. So there are about 78 CSOs going to Nairobi. But I think for Malawi, there is none that was registered. So Meiji and EM have been registered under other organizations in Kenya and Tanzania because there was none from Malawi. Because the UN allows 3 people per registration. If the MCA is registered, it can also register only 3 people to participate, to be under MCA's ticket. For the current cycle, there was no Malawian CSO. So we requested that we find other CSOs in Kenya, in Tanzania, to register the MCA partners that are going. So I think it talks about a lot about our maybe levels of participation and all that. That's why we asked Meiji, can we convene this meeting? And we start the discussion. Because next year there will also be another discussion in November and December. It will start from about 10 November to somewhere around December. So our aspiration is that by that time, we should have CSOs that are knowledgeable, that even if supported, because there was a call just 3 days ago, the Global Tax Justice Alliance wanted to support 6 other people who were, he said, can you give us names? People who are active, who can go and speak. But you know, for Malawi, we didn't have anyone that we could support, you know. That's why we said, maybe let's convene this platform, start national discussions, generate issues, and then we see how we can move forward. But other countries, I think Zambia is very active. Tanzania, Kenya, very active. That's the comment I wanted to make.
Thank you so much for the good presentations from all the presenters. Sorry. Yeah, once again, I'll say thank you so much and for the beautiful presentation from all the presenters presented this morning and also this afternoon. I'm interested on the incentive nationalization, a new term that has been coming up by the document, but it's a tax holidays. I know that Malawi, the ministry, has now discovered the tricks of most of the so-called investors and how they run away or they don't want to pay taxes. Using the tricks that they have used so far, I think the government, through the ministry, can understand how these international corporations run away from the paying taxes. So, my question is, you would like to come up with a new act, amendment, or so as you are doing that Taxation Act amendment, you need also to intensify on this area of tax holidays, because we haven't benefited a lot. You were presenting about the mining industry based on the research that was conducted by World Bank, that projection shows that we cannot get more than 4% of the mining revenue. 2. Yes, it is 2 now, but they are saying in the next 5 years it cannot proceed not more than even 5%. So it tells that most of these companies that are conducting mining industry business in Malawi, they always ask for tax holidays. As such, the revenue is very minimal, which means the mining industry doesn't mean that it's not bringing much money, but because of the tactics of these international corporations. So I would encourage the ministry to work seriously on this matter, because this is where we can get more funding, we can get more revenue collection from in Malawi. And let me give you one trick that the companies they are doing. After giving them tax holidays, they operate maybe within 5 years. After 5 years, they say, we are selling the company to a new company investor. That means the new investors will say, we cannot start paying the taxes, we are just buying the company. So they were also requesting for another taxation holiday. So I think we need also to consider all these areas. Thank you so much.
First of all, I would like to just appreciate the presentation. It's very informative. Of course, obviously, I always wonder. I've interacted with officials from the government in different sectors, very intelligent people. But then I don't know what happens with our. So that is maybe a discussion for another day to see what really happens. I don't know where we get things wrong. We may not have the whole time, but there are a few things that I just wanted to highlight on things that we've talked about. You talked about the bad policies; they are archaic. Maybe you just highlight a little bit of why have we delayed? Who is benefiting that we are delaying in changing the laws that we know that they don't benefit us as a nation? You have also mentioned that the others that are collecting, they collect tax official and then they collect unofficial or collect unofficially. Who does that? We would like to know, because as I said this morning, it's very painful for us as Malawians when we see people in the villages suffer on very simple things. Food, for example, something that would have resolved a long time ago, not in the 21st century. But then the others that are collecting, and then the other issue, you did mention about PPDA. I just wanted to add on fiscal police and financial intelligence unit. have you done a research on these organizations or departments? Because sometimes it will be the same as spending 1 billion to them and losing 1 billion in financial crimes and non-tax remittance. Yet we are funding Financial Intelligence Unit, Fiscal Police, PPDA, they waste taxpayers' money, the same money that we pay, but at the same time, they also help to lose the taxes through corruption. And so have we done a research or comparison? How much are we funding them? How much are we helping? For example, you have talked about PPDA taking 3 years to approve a road construction. For me, it's just corruption. Somebody wanting to cut the cake somewhere, and if they don't do it, that's very difficult. Finally, multinational companies. I've always been interested in farmers, especially other companies, you may talk about them, but tea, coffee, macadamia, and other big farms, when they export those products, even tobacco sometimes, do we have an opportunity to take tax? Somebody told me that they export, the money is kept there for tea, coffee, and macadamia, and there's no taxes limited, and the money doesn't even come here. It remains there. They only take a little bit for operations for the next year. Those are my 3 comments. Thank you very much. But you're very intelligent, Master.
Thank you very much for those interventions. Let me try to answer this. Tax review reform, how much do we think we can get from that? If we review all these acts, how much? I have to say that the reforms that we've been doing, the World Bank has been helping us. The IMF, they do send a team. The mission, they do help us. And then we have consultants, local and international. And then we also meet as a team comprising mostly the Minister of Finance and the Malawi Revenue Authority, technical people discussing the same issues. And one of the things that they also do is to give us an estimate. If you do this, how much money you're going to get. So from those estimates, if we were to implement everything as currently being proposed, because when you are preparing a law, you consider other things. The political also comes into play. So some things might be dropped off. But if everything was to be implemented, it's what I projected here. Currently, okay, I should say, we can double what we are currently collecting. That's the projection. We can double within a year or 2. If this year our revenue projection is 4 trillion, next year we implement everything. Within 12 to 18 months, we should be able to collect 8 trillion or 9 trillion. So we can double. The potential is massive. Those are the estimates that it's not just us, but even the IMF, the World Bank, all these people, the studies I was highlighting, they do give us this assessment. If you do this, this is how much you can get. And we also do our own analysis. So there's a lot of potential. But as I've said, sometimes the law is not, you don't just consider the technical aspect. You also consider the political, social, and the other factors. So maybe we might back down a bit on some areas, especially on the exemptions when you're looking at VAT. There's no VAT on foodstuffs, most foodstuffs, if they are not processed. There's no VAT on cooking oil. There's no VAT on flour. Now, the recommendations that is coming from the same. Put VAT on cooking oil. Put VAT on flour. So some of those, maybe when they are considered on social or even political, they'll say, maybe for these, let's still leave them out. So that question that was how much is the potential? There's a lot of potential, as much as doubling what we are currently collecting. But it will depend on what exactly will finally come out. There will be a bit of balancing. I can say that. Kabaza, they're causing a lot of damage to themselves, to other people, to property, because of recklessness mainly. So how do we ensure that they are contributing or deal with this issue? Again, this issue is multifaceted. On one side, it's political. You remember at one time when the police were enforcing, they were wearing helmets. And I think it was Dr. Joyce Banda's period. They said, don't touch them, and that's when it stopped. If you go to road traffic, there are a lot of motor vehicles they were confiscating, but that they were stopped at a rally, and that stopped. So it's political issue sometimes, that stopped. So, and then recently, even tax, we did the tax, we realized that there are a lot of motorbikes that are not registered. So because they are not registered, we realize that maybe some, because they buy and give people, maybe even the people who are buying can give insurance so that when they have an accident, maybe they can access better health and things like that. They have to be registered. We reduced the taxes. If the taxes now is 50,000 to register a motor, but if the proper way, maybe it will be 300,000 that you have to pay in taxes. So you see, the policy, maybe some are saying, maybe we should restrict them, but politically and socially, maybe we're saying, no, these people, they have, a lot of people they are helping. So we're even reducing the taxes. So it's a very difficult one, and how to handle it. That's what I can say. As a minister alone, I think it will be difficult, but it has to be involved different other people, even at political level.
I've heard a number of suggestions on insurance, that the insurance companies should be remitting back some of the money to perhaps the health sector, so that maybe that can help to reduce the burden of health service. Because what happens is when you pay insurance at the end of the year, when nothing happens,
yeah. No, I mean, there are already, those proposals are there. I think in South Africa, what they do is maybe they just put it on fuel. Then you don't have to do insurance for your motor vehicle. At least third party, you're covered through the fuel, and there's a fund, a fund that manages those funds. When they collect, it goes to that, and they pay out the insurance. Yeah, so, I mean, I think there are a variety of initiatives that can be done. But currently, I have to say, there isn't any talk. The only talk that is there, because even the Minister of Health keeps bringing this issue to the Minister of Finance, is now to increase funding to see, is there some money that we can earmark for health services, especially to deal with this problem. But as I said, maybe it's not Minister of Finance that would have to start that conversation. Because one is maybe bringing back the policy, say if you don't have a helmet, then you can't drive on the road. Just have a policy like that. But as I said, it was stopped. And then since then, now they just drive. Even the police, they don't stop them. Yeah. Okay. China debt cancellation, what does it mean for Malawi? Obviously, as I said, right now, mavuta tonga mbili. We are paying, I think, was it 2 trillion that he was mentioning every year. Now, if someone says no, ours, you no longer have to repay it. So it's a relief to the government. So what that means is maybe that money would have used to pay, then maybe we have now available resources for health, for education, for, she talked about unpaid child care. But maybe we'll care work, maybe we'll start giving something to himself, gender, and see how they can do that. But a bigger relief is needed because in Ngongwe Zonde and Zambia. Komadatan is a good start, it's very much appreciated. It will, but I don't know the figures right now. I can't tell you, say this is how much we are paying in terms of that, but it's good relief, it's a good way. Private sector, I think there was an issue of parastatals. I think mainly it was about corruption, in the way they operate. If sometimes on the pole, the switch goes down. When they come, they don't spend a minute. It's just, and then the rights are back. But they'll take a week, you know. And if you know someone, you just give them something, it's a tough one. Corruption is culture. You know, I have a small shop, a butchery, but I can tell you, stealing in Malawi is very, in everything we do. So it has to start with the organization itself being strict, following up on these complaints, and dismissing people. You know, it has to start from the top. We have to really be strict with these issues. That's all I can say. Otherwise, it's indeed a big problem.
So who will have the powers to say, ESCO, have you digitized some of the services?
Some you can digitize, but as I'm telling you, there's a pole, there's a switch. And for some reason to protect your house, they've made that switch that maybe there's a surge of it, it goes down. So someone actually has to come and put it up. You can't digitize that one. The payment, maybe they have digitized, but unfortunately we have poles, yagwa. You can't digitize. And habwele benditu. Azali zuse, amangilile. You see? So there are some processes that we will be able to digitize, but unfortunately there are some services that you can't. You just need physical people. Unless now we develop so much that my robots has kuzavanga. You know, with this AI. Maybe then corruption. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's the reality on the ground to say some services, you just need the physical presence. Yes. Okay.
But I just wanted to know what MRA or the Ministry of Finance is doing on technology harmonization. You mentioned that it has a potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What plans do you have?
Okay.
Increasing dams don't you think Uganda legalize the chamba to the global export? More sugar. I didn't say that if people who want to export, that will increase the dams from one. Two, another controversial. Very good friend, David and Amusa. Don't you also think, would it be a difficult song for a church or as I'm a peasant, I'm a week. Every Saturday, every Friday, every Saturday.
See how they're looking at you.
They are the beneficiaries of this kind of condition. But if it's high value,
tax justice should start with the church.
Exactly. And if they are honest enough, perhaps they should be the ones spearheading this.
Yeah.
Because, okay, we have Mapanga Damas to Kuna Basi, Basi, and what have you. And these schools have been really, but don't know if they tax. Don't you think maybe perhaps it's
Thank you. All right, thank you. I'll take those last. Let me just quickly continue. There was the issue of DRMS. Do you need support? We're developing it, and the answer is yes. In what ways? So the support will be in various ways. One, financially, we requested UNDP, and there are indications that UNDP, they will help us with procurement of a consultant. So they will assist, but we will, if you are able to help with the organizing forums, because as the ministry, we wanted to organize, but maybe we will do some one-on-one consultations, but for the majority, because we are looking maybe targeting the accountants, the people who are really always on the taxi. And then for CSOs and things like that, we just have one maybe in Lilongwe. But our plan would have been some key CSOs, Medjin, whatever. We actually also have one-on-one with them, and then we have maybe 3. In Zuzu, Lilongwe, Luntha, consulting them, and then we have national consultations. So If there's a contact person, we can still talk on this, because we're in the planning phase, and we would really greatly support it. And we also think that with your involvement, bringing in more people would be easier. So that, I'm glad that question was asked. We would need your support. Sure. So we keep talking. Yeah, okay, sure. We don't value our money. Tanzania is using their low money. I'll say this. We value our money. Okay? We value our money. But Tanzania has a lot of ways of generating forex officially. They are the port, all the Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi. We are using them. We are paying them in dollars officially. You see? Maybe they have clamped down on black market. So to receive a dollar, they find it difficult. Maybe when they go to the bank, they'll tell them, where did you get it? For people, it's easy. Whatever they want, they can use the shilling, because everything is coming to their doorstep. For Malawi, we don't have that luxury. We have more imports than exports. We don't have the forex. So we really need it to buy the things we need. So this is the difference, unfortunately. And this is why even in Zimbabwe, they value their Zimbabwe money, but they had no choice to just say, our money is, let's just use the dollar. Completely forget our money. You see? It's one way of trying, how do we make sure we still have the forex? You see, so it's those dynamics. We are importing too much than what we're exporting. We're not generating enough forex. So we can't have the luxury to say, let's use our money. Buying what? You can't use it to buy things from South Africa, to buy things from, or even Tanzania. If you go with Kwaja, they will not accept it. They will need their shilling. How do you get it? You exchange it with the dollar. This is a dynamic. Okay, so then, yeah, so working group, how do we formalize this? I think it would be a good idea to have a working group. We have ideas, we bang, and then if we have someone who is going there or whoever is following. So for me, I would say it would be a good initiative. It starts from you. You can just ask for, okay, we want to form a UN Convention Tax Working Group, and then you want a nomination, or 1 or 2 people from MRA, 1 or 2 people from Ministry of Finance. And then we meet, we have one starting meeting, and have then 2 hours. This group will be doing A, B, C, D. We make sure we follow up, because I totally agree with you, we are lagging behind. Unfortunately, some of us, I wish I was following up on that, but trust me, I go to the office and say, do this, do that, do that. So sometimes you want to follow, and this is why I really wanted to go to New York to be there, so that I can focus. So when you go and meet the Minister of Finance, say, someone has to go to New York, But then she's really, you're just busy, and then they don't give you, because if you have more time, then you are easily follow things, but it becomes difficult sometimes. So even in Malawi right here, if they say, okay, you'll just be working on these issues, you're dedicated, then that's okay. That's okay. You can be dedicated and follow things through, even right here in Malawi. But the problem is, if they haven't given you as a desk officer for that, then you're here, then it's just, because that meeting, it's maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, you are attending a meeting, and then you have also another assignment, It becomes difficult. So the alternative is assign people right here in Malawi. Maybe they should be less involved with it. So there will be MRA, and give them an office to say, you 3 people, you're working from here, you're working on US tax convention. Right here in Malawi, it will be a bit cheaper, but at least they'll be more focused on that. Okay. Why did we delay in reviewing the tax policies? At one time, I had a presentation on who influences tax policy. Not in Malawi, not anywhere else. But a tax structure of every country is largely influenced by the elites. The people with money are the people who influence the tax structure. So sometimes when you want to change this law, they'll tell you, this is election year, I'm going to take any guy. Sometimes maybe it's because they also benefit, excuse again. So sometimes what I'm saying is, you get drawbacks sometimes, pushbacks, because of the current system is working. So what we've been doing every year, you know, you'd hear we have changed this tax. So pangono, mpebede jabe. It is now we say no, let's go full blown out, the whole act reviewing it. But there have just been one issue over another that has led to the delay. Who is collecting the unofficial taxes? But the unofficial taxes, they are there. So in Malawi, maybe we are better off. But I was talking at that time, I was talking about Nigeria. So instead of paying royalties, you know the states how they work in Nigeria. They are very rich people. They just go, give me my card. You can pay this part to the government, to the state, to the national government. But even here, you and me, we can see a car on beforehand. You know everything, if I pay it to bring this car to Malawi, everything will be 45 million. This is a fact, okay? This car, a Toyota Benz 2015 C-Class, if it comes, everything you count, you pay, it will be 45 million. You go town, you find exactly the same car. They are selling it at 43 million. One, if you bring it, it will be expensive. Commercial two, it will be higher. They haven't even put their profit margin. Yet they are selling it lower. How do they do it? How do they do it? Of course, they tell, I will get a discount, but there's that. But they'll tell you, we know how to enter this car. Instead, it's a 10 million car. Then maybe it will pass as a 5 million car. I'm not saying who is collecting the unofficial. I didn't say that. I'm just saying. Yeah, this is some of the, so the revenue, instead of going to the government, it hasn't gone to the government. It's gone into someone else's pocket. So these are some of the issues that we need to deal with to ensure that we collect that much revenue. Yeah. Did I answer who is collecting? The unofficial one? No, eh? Yeah, the fiscal police, FIU, we need, I think these ones, they're difficult ones. They're very difficult because procurement, everyone who's doing procurement in government, they'll tell you about PPDA difficulties. But it needs strong political will to have decisive decision to say on how you want things to operate. Yeah, it has to be very top level.
My suggestion was going to be disbanded because we are using as Malawians to lose both ways.
Yeah.
We funded them, and then they do corruption and steal our money. So if we fund them 1 billion, for example, per year, and then they steal another 1 billion.
Yes.
If we disband them, then we save 1 billion.
Yeah.
Because all these things we're complaining about, tax evasion and all these things.
Yeah.
These departments are supposed to check and enforce rules.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they don't. And as you say, the people who empower them are the strong, the politicians. I made the same statement during engagement when the previous finance minister was appointed. He was looking for advice, searching from different sectors. And then I said, what about these things? He didn't give an answer. The second thing I proposed was, if you have to be successful as a new minister, go close the black market. And there was no answer. And later on I learned that they also benefit from the black market. So they can't close it. And also they benefit from these delays in these organizations. Because if you say the 3 years, just authorize the road. What has happened in 3 years? It means that road is...
The prices have changed.
The price have changed.
The road is even worse.
I'll give you an example. Where we are buying, I was in a government board somewhere, so we are buying a printing machine. And so the company in Germany said it's going to cost you 1 billion watt. And we ran around, go to Ministry of Finance, Treasury, we went to the previous Vice President, the one who died on the tax. So, so he said, yeah, we need to buy this very quickly. We have to be here. It took 1 year. And then by the time we were getting money from traders, the company in Germany said, because of your devaluation, the price now is 2 billion.
Yes.
So to start all over again, my German everybody
has ended, you see? Yeah.
So no progress there.
Yeah.
So I think, let me finish if you allow me. For us, our biggest concern is that taxes are faithfully collected by your ministry from poor farmers, small traders, poor shoppers, and teachers and nurses. These monies are spent by the rich because no roads, broken systems, hospital medicine is not there, schools are overcrowded, other social services are not provided, and the poor pay, but the powerful prosper. And that is what we are as a nation. And if someone will come and fix this, then we'll be in a better place. But otherwise we'll be talking, and as I said earlier, I have met people that know what we need to do, like yourself. But then somehow, somewhere, things don't seem to make sense. So for us, I think we are ready for this issue where the poor pay, and we saw the figures, but the powerful prosper. And that we must fix. Otherwise, we'll be talking, our people enjoy the snacks here, we enjoy good news, but the people in the village are still suffering.
Thank you very much. What all I can add to that is to say, I think if you have some notes for this, it's good sometimes to share. I will pass on even the report and the message. So these are some of the issues that are coming out that we need to take here. So that's what I would say. Yeah. Quickly, the last two ones, multinationals, tea, coffee, whatever. The export, are we collecting anything? So on export, we don't tax. There is no tax on exports. You tax, go. But the money, it goes, it's not coming back. It's true. It's because when it goes to the bank, sometimes the bank is difficult. They want to buy something outside Malawi, their input, even fertilizer or whatever. They tell them we don't have forex. So some are indeed keeping it. But what the government has done is to introduce what they call CD1 forms. Reserve Bank, you can't export something without that form. When you export that form, that product, the next time you come to export again, they will check, they'll say there's an outstanding CD1 form. That shows that that money hasn't come. So you will not be allowed to export. Where is that money? So this is one of the controls that they are putting in place to ensure that the money does come back. But indeed, it's a problem. But it's a problem mainly also because we have that forex shortage and some are taking advantage of it, but some are genuinely keeping it outside so that they are able to import the raw materials other than buying on the black market. So there's that. Technology and MRA, where are we? Madam, this is an area that I'm also very much interested in, excited. We have started with, our domestic taxes. Even to know a taxpayer, I could be paying, because there are different forms you file. The income tax or corporate tax, there's a file, and VAT, there's a file, and the pay as you earn, there's a file. So, and they fall on the different dates, some 14, some 20, some 24, 25. Different dates when you have supposed to submit these forms and payments. So one company can be compliant, maybe pay as you earn, VAT CGB, and we were not able to see that. And then we could be compliant with VAT, pass a refund, pay so he owes money, or corporate tax and VAT or bank overpaying kumpasa refund. Why? The systems were not talking to each other. So we started with the ITAS project, Integrated Tax Administration System. It's called Msonk Online, maybe you have heard. So that one is giving 360 of the taxpayer to know all the tax payments you are making and things like that. So we're working on that. Unfortunately, that project is still not yet completed, but it started in 2014. So by the time we are completing, the technology is becoming obsolete. So this is a problem, but we are moving towards there. And we have a SCUDA system. So now what we are targeting, that we are advocating for, that they do, is to start merging the customs and the domestic systems so that they also start talking to each other. So soon you've heard of e-invoicing. So that's one way of where we are integrating. So we are advancing, maybe not as fast as we should, but it's there. A legalized chamber and the church should also contribute, pay taxes from there, from, I don't know, offerings or money that they get. It's, these are proposals, I would say, could be a recommendation, but it's not, these are not, they border on social aspects quite a lot. And the government, they like the church because of the benefits, not political. The church is a political, is not much, but social. The service provision, whatever. The political, generally, the church has been neutral, not much. Unless people start aligning them with the church and hoping that other members of the same church will say, maybe we vote for him. But we know it doesn't really quite work like that. By the social, they are doing health, they are doing security, they are preventing crime, trying to change people, and things like that. So, because of the social benefits, the other factors that you get, the benefits you get from the church, then you kind of lean in to say, we lift them because, in a way, they're also helping some of the activities that we're supposed to be doing. But it's a matter that can go into parliament. These are usually some things that would have to go through the parliament. I don't see the minister taking them on board directly. Yes.
Thank you very much for helping us.
Yes.
I think I would help you to say it is true, because sometimes I'm happy that you do remember, sometimes people forget why you are paying taxes. So they think about it just going taxes. Taxes is for social services. For the people, it's just unfortunate here where you are deducted money when you pay, and then you pay private school, private hospital, you pay other things, which were supposed to be provided by the government so that you are actually benefiting from your taxes. So the reason for taxes is for the government to function and pay social services. So what some churches do, they provide the social services. 60% of health services are provided by the church in Malawi through Christian Health Association.
Yeah.
So a bigger percentage of schools, probably 40%, Catholic, CSOs, and Baptist, those schools are operated by the church. Actually, the church were the first to start operating schools before the government started. So most people, if you find them, they were educated at the mission school.
Yeah.
So you went to the mission school. So you were beneficiary, that's what I mean. But that's what we do at churches. We do that because we know we cannot just finger pointing at the government. We need to work together.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, let's tax them, what are we going to use the taxes to build a school? Okay, we already built the school. Okay, what to buy medicine? Okay, we have hospitals. As Catholic churches, CCPs, but you are right, but there are churches, some churches you have seen, especially prophetic ones. Churches that are commercial, they receive the tithe, but then they don't have any structure, social services. They will give lazy there, but they don't have structure.